course, reached the semi-finals last season in this competition. This time round, with the squad that you've got now, you haven't spent £250 million and the reinforcements you've got in all positions. Do you now see this as a moment where you can go one step further and possibly get to the final, win the competition maybe?
Yeah, like the rest of the teams that they have done the same and they continue to do that and they've won it in many occasions. That's the aim in the beginning, but we all know that it's going to be a really long journey. The margins in this competition are super small and you have to be at your very best from day one to give yourself the best possible chance.
And what in particular did you learn from the competition last season which you're going to take into the competition this time around?
That we are good enough, that we can compete against any opposition on the day. And on top of that, that two things have to go your way. You need to have a full squad available when it comes to the most critical moments in the season. And then as well, when the ball has to go in the right moment or with the right decision, it has to be as well because the margins are so small.
Amy, Athletic.
Hi, Mikel. Was part of the strengthening in a lot of numbers this summer down to that feeling when you're in the semi-final and your numbers are short and you think, I don't want to be here next year, where you're struggling to put out your best team when it counts?
Well, when we were training, we had 8 or 9 fit players and we're going to games with 13 players. And at that level is extremely difficult. But I think even with that condition, we did really, really well. We gave ourselves an unbelievable chance and we were very unlucky in the semi-final not to get through.
David Ra was just here and he was talking about how much it almost seemed to still hurt when he thinks about the semi-final and being in that position. I hate to take you back to that moment, but how much does it drive you to have that experience as a young manager where you get so close to the top of the mountain?
Well, it is that, and that moment you get deflated and you have to understand what you need to do to put yourself back in the same position and start actions actually that matter to give yourself the chance to achieve that. And that's it. You take a lot of learnings from it. It's painful because it's not only what we feel, it's about the expectation that we created and the real conviction that we had within the club, the team, that we could go all the way because we showed a very high level of consistency and quality throughout the competition and learn from it and try to be better.
Okay, a couple more in English and we'll go to Spanish questions. George from BBC.
Mikel, hello. Sorry, just the way you started the season, do you sense from the players that after the hurt of last season, they're ready to win the Champions League? And you mentioned...
But it's not that simple. I mean, you are so willing to do and you want to be better. I sense a very clear intention that they want to be better every single day. And that's the start and the end. And with there is nothing else to control, create the energy, the belief amongst the players, the understanding and the feeling that we can compete against any opposition. And certainly they have that.
You mentioned about flying into Bilbao, so is all of your family coming to this match tomorrow? Is your phone been
all
pinging?
Of them, no, but a big majority will come and I'm really looking forward to that, yeah.
Mark, ESPN.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
You're getting a lot of questions about winning the Champions League and understandably it's the start of the season, but Arsenal are probably the biggest club that's never won it. Is there a pressure that you feel with that because Liverpool won it multiple times, Man United, Chelsea? You want to win it, obviously, but how important is it to win that first one for Arsenal?
Well, that tells you with our long history how difficult it is because we haven't won it yet. And that's the opportunity. That's how I see it. No, the pressure is the opportunity that thrives. That energy, that willingness to be better every single day, to make decisions that are in that direction. And every decision, and if we were not that much, every decision has to be with that standards and with those expectations. And let's give our best chance to try to do it.
Ruben Amorim, 3 at the back formations, Man United's failings and the topic of stubbornness. Ruben Amorim is willing to die by the sword he's trying to forge from the ground up, as the Portuguese coach is refusing to deviate from the system he has employed throughout his managerial career. Amorim has played a 3-4-2-1 since he broke into management at Casa Pia and admittedly did have success at Sporting CP throughout his tenure there, winning 2 league titles, the first 2 in 19 years for the club. The 40-year-old views football in his own particular way and is adamant that this system is the key to success within the Premier League, despite three-back formations famously never dominating the league since its inception. The issues with Ruben Amorim's system on clear standout season for a three-back formation was Antonio Conte's Chelsea side, who won the league, but there is a clear caveat to that. N'Golo Kante was an anomaly in regard to covering the distances that are left from deploying a two-man midfield, and United are finding out the hard way that it's nearly impossible to emulate that at this moment in time. The weaknesses in the system are clear even with the best players available, but accompanied by the profile of midfielders United have at the club, they become amplified. Casemiro lacks the pace and fluidity of the player who dominated European football with Real Madrid. Bruno Fernandes is a number 10, being asked to play out of position due to the sheer quality he possesses, being unable to be left out of any side, even if it does at times prove to be a detriment defensively. Kante could cover more distances than perhaps most in Premier League history. This made the weaknesses in Conte's system seem minute, a factor that, along with the sheer class of the side, made it no surprise they won the Premier League. Particularly due to the fact that it wasn't exactly the strongest league in comparison to today. If my statistics are correct, Antonio Conte's 2016-17 side remains the only side in Premier League history to win the league using a back three system predominantly. It's a formation that has never been capable of dominating the division, and that is unlikely to change anytime soon, particularly at Manchester United. United do not have any collection of midfielders that are anywhere near capable of carrying out the demands that come from playing a two-man midfield in a league made up of teams that are made up of three-man midfields, and even teams that try and overload United's midfield 4v2. Fulham spoke about this after the game. With Alex, I will be detailing how they overloaded the United midfield to exploit the weaknesses that are quite clear in the center of the pitch. Speaking on the game, I will be said the following. To push on high, and it allows me to get into that pocket. It's something we worked on in training, and we were able to execute that in a match. We knew we would be able to get behind their two midfielders, and the three center-backs wouldn't want to jump, so we exploited that today. Stubbornness, unwillingness to change. There are issues with the system, and Amorim will know that himself. He is nowhere near a person who lacks intelligence in any way, shape, or form, and he can see what is happening on the pitch just as much as the next person. And he may have a point in regard to the mentality of the team affecting the performances, because at the end of the day, Oliver Glasner plays a similar system at Crystal Palace and the performances are of a much higher level than United's, but still. The mentality is only half of it. The system is not sustainable with these players, and if your system is directly affecting the performances of the players, it's your job as manager to tweak the system to suit the players at your disposal. Amorim is not the only person to blame. A midfielder needed to be signed, as well as a pure wingback. Patrick Dorgu is a phenomenal player, but he is not a wingback. United needed a pure wingback to be crucial in the final third in the critical moments. United needed a midfielder, and they chose to go against signing one, instead signing three forwards when the club arguably only needed one. The manager is stubborn, but he hasn't been backed in the right manner. He's been backed financially, of course, but not with the right players to completely play the system. He needed to be backed with the right players to suit his style, just like it was at Sporting. Sporting were not built to play a back three before the arrival of Amorim, but they made sure to back him fully by building their recruitment completely around him. At United, the signings this summer feel more like they were signed for a 4-3-3 manager, as opposed to someone who plays a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1. Laurie Woodwell made clear the target at the start of the window was a centre forward and a midfielder. United signed a centre forward, a young one, albeit not a midfielder. It was so clear that a midfielder was needed. Brian Mbeumo was arguably not needed when Ahmad plays in that position, and Ahmad had such a good campaign last year for the club. Again, Dorgu was signed in January, who is quite clearly a fullback, not a wingback. Liverpool signed a wingback in the shape of Jeremy Frimpong, who would suit United a lot more than he did Liverpool. A player like Federico Di Marco from Inter Milan taking up the position Dorgu currently holds would make a lot of difference in regard to the final product, which at times has been lacking and at times has killed big chances and opportunities to score. Unlikely to become a success in irony is that Erik ten Hag abandoned his system straight away. And many feel that ultimately abandoning his idea is the reason